Good afternoon all, and welcome to this webinar. Indeed, welcome to the webinar series, Inspired Squad Mathematics Methods. You might be well wondering where a strange name like that comes from. Well, I'm working on the idea that you've enrolled in the Western Australian Mathematics and Methods course. And, of course, at this point in time, you are very busily reviewing the content material and preparing for your WACE exams. And that, of course, is very inspiring. Now, TI is also the name of a portable computer algebra system, which you're expected to be able to use in the second part of your exam. TI stands for Texas Instruments, and as they have provided funding for this program, we'll be utilising their platform to help illustrate some of the many maths concepts that you need to revise. My name is Bryan Lanning, and I'll show you a scary photo. There he is. And I'll be your host for the entire series. I've been teaching various senior secondary maths subjects for about a little over 30 years now, and I'm presently teaching maths and science subjects in a TAFE-based engineering diploma. I've also been involved with quite a lot of teacher training, and in the past few years I've hosted and presented many Texas Instruments webinars. This, however, is the first time such a program has been extended to include students, which I think is absolutely wonderful, and I hope we can get funding to do more of it in the future. But guess what? You guys are the first, so no pressure. But the entire future of the program just rests upon you, most especially on how you interact with the program and, of course, write nice things about your teachers in the evaluation. I'm sure you've got clever teachers already, and I'm going to introduce you to the teachers for this program shortly. But before I do, can I just throw in a quick comment about how clever I think you are? It may well be that you're the cleverest student in your school, but one thing that I can tell you from teaching Year 12 for many, many years, one thing that I'm convinced is vitally important during Year 12 is that you seek out ideas and resources from beyond just your school. Now, that could be university lecturers, it could be tutorial programs, student forums, or just meeting and talking with different students and teachers. So your presenters for this evening. The main presenter for this evening will be Hayley Drew. Now, Hayley teaches at Waverley Secondary College in Melbourne, and I'm sure you can read there. She's a senior maths teacher, specialises in VCE methods. She's passionate about student engagement in maths. In recent years, Hayley developed a program that she called Maths Boot Camp. Sounds a bit scary, really. But what she's used that for is particularly targeting on areas of misconception and gaps in understanding, critical understanding for the topics, and then worked to address that. So her boot camp program saw increased student engagement among her students. She's presented at a whole host of things, pre-service teacher training events, at a range of universities, both in Australia and overseas. She's a teacher trainer for Texas Instruments, and she presented at the Mathematical Association of Western Australia conference last year. So Hayley will be your main presenter for this evening. The other presenter this evening, who you'll only just briefly be introduced to, is Stephen Julian from Mandurah Catholic College in WA. You can read a little bit about Stephen there, but I'll first of all let you switch across to see what Hayley's up to. And Hayley, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Let me just share my screen. I'm not getting this. There we go.
Bouncing balls. There we go.
Yeah,
lovely.
Got it now. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inspire Squad. Bryan, thank you for that very nice introduction. It's great to see so many people have logged on. and I'm sure most of you are Year 12 students. So I'm very impressed that you've logged on, and I hope you get a lot out of tonight's session. So I might just suggest that the Year 12s who are logged on pick up a pen and a bit of paper. If you don't have a pen and paper next to you, maybe run and grab one, just in case you want to take some notes. And, of course, these notes could be on your summary sheet in Exam 2, which I know that you're allowed to take into your exam. So as part of the Maths Methods course, according to the WACE study design, it is assumed that students will be taught this course with an extensive range of technological applications. So that pretty much means you need to know how to use your calculator. And I've taught Maths Methods for 8 years now to Year 11 and 12 students, and it's similar in Victoria. Our second exam involves the use of CAS technology. And let me tell you guys, if you know how to use your calculator really well and know all the tips and the tricks, then you're certainly more likely to be successful in that second methods exam. So today's session is a bit of an overview. We're going to look at settings and navigating documents and pages, and then we'll look at the types of documents that you can create on a CAS handheld. So we're going to start by looking at settings and software. So hopefully you've got your handheld on you, and you might just want to click your home key. You should see this page here. And for you on a handheld, it's probably quicker just to press the number 5 instead of the keypad and going over here. But if you press the number 5, which is the key into settings, and then the number 4, you'll be able to see the status of your software. Now, the latest version of the handheld software and the computer software is 4.2. So if you're seeing something that is before 4.2, 4.0 was the software before, or you might even have something starting with a 3, that means that your software is out of date, and you really need to update your handheld. And I know that sometimes students don't do that, and what happens is that the people who make these wonderful little things are always making improvements to the software. So I understand that updating your software on your calculator is a little bit like updating your phone software, and it all seems a bit funny for the first couple of days, but it's really important that you do that so that you're getting the best possible use out of your calculator. Okay, if you are wondering how to do that, you can ask in the question box on the right-hand side, or ask your teacher at school tomorrow. It's pretty simple to update your software. Okay, so from the home page, we can see all these icons down the bottom, and we can also see number 4 is current. Now, this is a really handy little trick. If you press the number 4, you'll get back into that page that we saw before, and that's something often students will go to the home page to do something, and then they don't know how to get back to the other document, so they might click down here, and what that does is it inserts a new page, and then you end up with all these pages that you don't want. If you have a page that you don't want, like this one here, you can delete that by pressing the Dock key, Documents, and then going to Page Layout. So again, you can use the shortcut, which is the number 5, and then Delete Page, and that will just delete out any pages that we don't want. Okay, we're going to press the Home key again, and this time Settings, so you might like to press number 5. And we're going to go into our document settings here, because document settings for methods are so important. So the first thing we see is a float. Now, this is telling us how many decimal places, if our answer comes out to be a decimal, how many decimal places we'll see, in other words, how many decimal places it will round to. So if it's a decimal like 1.5, it's not going to give us 1.50000, etc. This is just a rounding thing. So I've got mine set up to 12. That might seem a little bit excessive, but you do want to make sure it's up nice and high for methods, because you don't want to incur any rounding errors if your float is set down here. So let's just leave that at 12. Now, the second thing is this angle button here. It's really important that you know how to change your calculator from degree mode to radian mode and vice versa, particularly if you're using your calculator for maybe another subject and you have it in degree mode. For methods, we will leave it in radian at the moment, and if we want to do any maths in degree, we can use our degree symbol. I'll show you that in a moment. Okay. This one should be set to normal and real for methods. And the next really important one is this one here, the calculation mode. So it's really important that we have our calculator set in auto. What that means is that if there is an exact answer, our calculator will give us the exact answer when it's set in auto. But if there's not an exact answer, if the calculator can only find a decimal approximation, it will give us the decimal approximation. So this is sort of your best of both worlds button, and we definitely want to have our calculator set into, in auto. If you don't have it set to auto, then you risk finding all of your solutions when you're solving an equation, and I'll come back to that in a moment and show you what I mean. So once you're happy with all of your settings, maybe you've made a few changes, you just press Tab, so Tab over here, Tab, 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 all the way down to Make Default. And if you click on Make Default, that this message up here will come up. Apply these settings to all documents that you make, including your Scratchpad. And you want to press OK, and that means that in future, unless you reset your calculator, but as long as you don't reset your calculator, all of the documents that we make will have those settings. Okay, I hope that was nice and clear. Again, if you have any questions, just you can ask in the Q&A box there. Okay,
now we might have... That's great, Hayley, if I could just interrupt there. Yeah, just reminding students how to use those Q&A boxes. Some students may be new to using the WebEx system. You should see on a panel on the right-hand side some little icons on the top right, Chat and Q&A. So if they can click on either of those, Chat can just go to across the group, but Q&A is probably the best for questions because they hit that one and open that up, and then they can type in a question and they can direct it. When they type their question, they can direct it to either the hosts or all panelists. I would encourage you direct your chat to, your Q&A to all panelists. That way we all see it. Yeah, and there's about 3 or 4 of us online watching and waiting to pounce on your questions to give you a good response. So
that's right.
So thanks for that.
Plenty of teachers there waiting to answer your questions.
Also, don't feel worried if you don't see any other attendees other than yourself. That's just the way the system is set up. So the system is set up, students, that you see the names of the presenters and host, but you don't see the names of other attendees, of which there are many, many on the program tonight, which is wonderful.
Thanks
Hayley.
No worries. Okay, so getting back to the home screen, it's really important that we learn how to navigate from the home screen. I would like you guys to completely ignore the Scratchpad. That's what I tell my methods kids. So we're not going to go near the Scratchpad. And if I walk past my students who are on the Scratchpad, I give them a little tap on the wrist. They're not allowed in there because we want to use these documents down the bottom. So we could click on these icons to open a document, but rather than doing that, I'm going to go back to my current document. And there's a nice little trick that you can use to insert a new document, and that trick is Control-I, just like on a computer. If you want to insert something, Control-I is the shortcut. And up comes this menu here with the different types of documents that we can create. So the ones that we use frequently in methods are the calculator page, the graphs page. We don't tend to use geometry that much, or I don't with my students. Sometimes we use lists and spreadsheets and data and stats, and we'll have a look at that today as well. But this one here, the notes pages, this is amazing, an untapped resource that once you learn how to use these notes pages, you'll be ahead of the pack. So we'll get there eventually. Let's just have a quick look at these documents. So a calculator page. Now your calculator page can do normal maths. It can add numbers, multiply numbers, etc. But it can do so much more than that. And the secrets are all in this menu key here. So if you press menu, you come up with a list, lots of different things in here, and there's some important keys that we need to learn for methods. So let's head straight to algebra. Solve, factor, expand, zeros, complete the square, simultaneous equations, polynomial tools. I need about 2 more hours to explain all of these, so I might just do a couple of them. Let's look at solve. Now, solve will solve all sorts of equations, linear equations, quadratic equations. Let's do something nice and basic. Maybe we'll do a nice little quadratic equation here. And it's really important that we know the syntax that we need to use here. So we type in our equation, and it has to have an equal sign in it because it's an equation that we're solving. And it doesn't need to equal 0. So in fact, we could, because we knew the solution for that was a bit easy. There we go. Let's make x squared minus 9 equal 1. And it's really important that we have comma x on the end. Now, the comma x refers to the unknown that we're solving for. If this quadratic was a squared minus 9, then we'd need comma a. And that goes inside the bracket. So we'll press enter, and there are our true solutions. And you can see that they're coming up as exact values instead of decimal approximations, and that comes back to our settings before. If we did want them as decimal, we just press Control and Enter, and that will convert those answers into a decimal approximation. And you can see that my float is up nice and high. That's why I'm getting so many decimal places there. Now, another little trick is the zeros command. And I might show you the zeros command with a circular function equation. Let's imagine that we had solved sin x equals 1/2, which we know will give us general solutions because this is a trig equation. So if we press enter there, we'll get our general solutions. If we wanted specific solutions in our domain, we would need to restrict the domain. And how do we do that? Well, on the outside of our bracket, we do Control equals. That brings up these little shortcut keys. And we want this given that symbol. And we might say given that x is between, let's say, 0 and 4 pi. So we can type in there. X is between 0 and 4 pi is down on this little button down here. There we go. And what that will do is give us a list of solutions here. Now, the zeros command can be used instead of the solve function. And the zeros command is really useful. Let's have a look at that. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't type in. I'm cheating here. Let's find zeros in the catalogue. So for you guys on a handheld, maybe click on your little book button here. And then if you press the key Z, that will take you straight to zeros. So I'll just go through that again. Press your little book button. You need to be in the first tab here. So if you're over here somewhere, press the number 1. That'll take you over here. And press the Z key for zeros. And up comes our zeros command. And we need to type in an equation. Now, if we were typing in this equation here, x squared minus 9 equals 1, which is a bit of a silly equation, we would need to transpose that equation because to use the zeros command, you must have your equation equal to 0. So with the zeros command, we do not need an equal sign. We just need to transpose the equation to make it equal 0, and there are our solutions in a set, which might not seem worthwhile with a quadratic like this, but we'll see what it's like with a circular function equation. And we can type in sine of x. Now remember, we need to transpose this equation to make it equal to 0. So I need to subtract 1/2 from both sides. And of course, we need to put in our domain restriction here that x is between 0 and 4 pi was what I had there. And here we go. We can see our equation is typed in. There's no equal sign with the zeros command. Our domain's on the outside of the bracket. And if we press enter, then our solutions come out in this nice set bracket. Now, if you're still thinking, why would we do that? Sometimes you get questions about the sum of the solutions. And I just typed in the word sum there. But again, you guys can access these words from the catalogue. So if you go all the way down to, it might have been quicker to go to T and scroll up. There's sum, and we can add all of those solutions together. Or if it was a really, really long list, sometimes they ask you the number of solutions. Now, instead of retyping these things in, I'm just pressing the up key up here. And if you want to copy and paste something on a handheld, you can use Control-C and Control-V, or you can actually just go up and highlight it and then press enter, and that dumps that line back down there. So you can use these little shortcuts, sum and count, which can be very handy. And as I said, you can only do that when your solutions are in a set. So you wouldn't be able to use those sum and count tricks when your solutions were in a list of solutions like that. Okay, what else is hidden in this marvellous menu? We have factor, so that will factorise things. We can expand things. We've done zeros and solve. We can complete the square, which can be very handy. We can solve systems of equations. We might come back to this list because I'd like to show you the assign command. And the assign command is really useful when you have a function and you're going to do lots of different things to it. So let's insert a new page. To insert a new page, I'm going to press Control-I, not Control-1. There we go. And let's assign a function. So see how I've typed in F here and my F is coming up bold? That's because somewhere in this document I've used F, and I'd need to sort of go across and try and find out where that was. And this happens a lot in methods exams. People use a variable and then they want to use it again in another question, and they get tricked into thinking that they need to go and delete all of their pages and delete their variable. You absolutely do not need to do that. So let's talk about what we might do. Press Control up and you can see that we have this problem 1. They're all my pages. And all of those pages are linked or they're talking to one another. So if I've defined a function in one of these pages, then when I insert a new page, it will appear. And if I click my var key there, I can see all of the things that I've already assigned or defined. And you can see that there's just one function. It's this F function here. So I want a completely new problem, but I don't want to delete out these pages. So I'm going to press Doc, which is this key here. And I'm going to go to Insert, which is number 4, and I should be using keys on my handheld, sorry. And this top one, so that was Doc and then 4, and then you can see at the top here, we can insert a page like we have been inserting, or we can insert a problem. And what happens is we have a whole new problem here. You can see this is problem 2, and if we click this var key, nothing is defined. And if I type in F, does not come up bold. It's telling me, yep, this variable hasn't been used yet, which is really nice on an exam where you have multiple application questions and the examiners like to try and trick you and use the same variable in a couple of questions, but we're too clever for them. We're just going to create different problems. In fact, I tell my method students they can open up 4 or 5 problems on their handheld before they even walk into their exam and have them all set out so that they can use different problems. And we can navigate between problems by pressing Control up. And we have all these problems here. So if you are something like my Year 12s were at the start of the year and you have a whole lot of tabs open, like 99 different tabs open, maybe you've never gone out and cleared your tabs, you can press Control-N and that will open a whole new document, and you'll be asked, do you want to save this document? And we'll have a look in a moment how you would save those documents. Let's just do this first. Okay, so F of X, there's a little shortcut key here, Control, and this hidden little gem here is the assign key. It's not an equals key, it's an assign key. And we're going to assign, we'll just do something fairly basic, but you can do this with any rule, log rule or any polynomial, anything that you want really. We might just do this x squared minus x minus 12. I'm sure you recognise that from Year 9 maths probably. So once you've got this function assigned, it means that it can be recalled from the var key, f of x. We can sub in a value, so f of 0. We could evaluate f of 500, so the function value when the x value is 500. But we can do more than that. We can use this menu here to perform all sorts of algebra. So we could factor it. We could factor f of x. And again, we need this little comma x at the end. We could complete the square. So algebra, complete the square. And again, we need f of x, comma x, and it will complete the square for us. And what's happening is it's recalling this function from the stored memory, which you can imagine becomes very useful in an exam where you're pressed for time and you don't want to be typing in a big, long equation, particularly if it's some sort of more complex equation that you're using for an analysis type question. The other beautiful thing is that we can insert a graphs page here. Now watch what happens if I press Control-I and I insert a graph page. This is 2.2 and that was 2.1. So these pages are linked. And if I were to hit my var key, you can see F is defined in this page as well because it's part of problem 2. And if I type in f of x here, it will recall my defined function from the previous page, which is really nice. So again, with a big extended response question, you don't need to be retyping in the rule if you have it defined here in this first page. Okay, so what have we got? We've got a couple of problems here. Let's press Control up and have a look. Problem 1, problem 2. Imagine that we've made some sort of really interesting document and we want to save it. So you can see there's a little save button up here. Control and save. And that one has already been saved. That's why it's coming up like that. Let's jump over here and we might save this document. So Control and save, and it will you'll find a menu like this. You can name that whatever you'd like to name it. So webinar, for example, and then you click save, and let me just call it webinar 99, and that name will appear up the top there. So that's really handy if you do something cool with your teacher in class, or maybe you learn something cool on the webinars, you can save it. And now I'm going to show you how to get back to that saved file. So if we go to our home key, you may have noticed when you're using your calculator that there's a new document key and there's a My Document key. And if we click in My Document, which of course you can do from the key 2, you'll be able to find that document that you saved. So it'll be in here somewhere and you can just simply click on it and open it. And I'll just open this one just for kicks. There we go. That's obviously a document I've made with my Year 12 kids some time ago. So that's the saving of documents. Hopefully that wasn't too quick for you, but again, you can ask in the chat if it was. All right.
Sorry, Hayley, it's Stephen Julian here. How are you? Hi, everyone. I haven't had a chance to say hello. Just a couple of quick questions that are coming through before you move on, Hayley, and since it's come up from a couple of people. Excuse me. We've had a question about the assign function. Is the assign function the same as store function? And also any difference between colon, equals, and define command. So I thought since we've had that a few times come up, that you might just want to discuss that with everyone.
Yeah,
so
sure.
again,
None
is
at all.
the assign function the same as the store function, and any difference between colon, equals, and define?
So all three are the same. There's no difference. So store, define, assign, they're all the same. I just use the assign command because it's a nice little shortcut. So I might do something here. I've managed to get rid of my webinar page. So that I find is just simply just a shortcut. So if you're used to using your store key or something like that, then, or the define command, then, and you think that's a quicker way to do it, that's fine. I just teach my kids to use assign because I think it's a bit quicker. But no difference at all. Okay.
Thank you, Hayley.
That answers that?
Good questions, and good to clarify that, yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we've had a little look at the calculator page. I might just quickly mention a couple more things before we move on to graphs. You can see I've just defined this function. Now, if I've accidentally, maybe I think, oh, whoops, there should have been a 5 there. You can delete something that you've defined. So you can go into the menu and then actions, and you can delete a variable. So that's an option if you want to delete something altogether. But if you had just made a mistake, you can actually just highlight it, as I said before, and press enter and come down here, and you might want to fix that. Okay, that's what it was meant to be, and redefine over the top. So if we now typed in h of x, it would be the second rule. So defining a function over the top of another function cancels out the previous one. And there's a few more little shortcuts here that are really handy. Shift plus and shift minus are our derivative shortcuts. So that's really handy. And again, you can just recall the function that you've already defined. So shift plus is the integral and shift minus is the derivative. And there we go. I've differentiated and anti-differentiated h of x there. The way that somebody clever, I can't remember who taught me how to remember which one's which, is when you differentiate a polynomial, you subtract one off the power, and when you anti-differentiate, you add one to the power. So that's how I remember which shortcut is which there, which is really, really handy. There's one more little cool thing here. If you're asked to find the domain of a function, let's go back into our menu and press, actually I might press E, quicker to get to domain that way. And you can type in a function here. Let's type in 1 over x minus 4, and comma x needs to go on the end, and it will tell us what our implied domain restriction or our maximal domain is. Of course, this isn't probably the notation we'd use. We'd probably say x is an element of all real values except for 4, but still that's handy if it's a multiple choice question, certainly. Okay, I'm going to move into the graphs page. So let's have a look at our graphs page, and we might just press Control-I, a shortcut, and bring up a graphs page here. And let's type in h of x, and we can see that's our exponential function that we had defined in the previous page. So a couple of things here. If we want to find that x-intercept, and we tried to do that on the calculator, we would use menu and analyze graph, and it would be zeros. That's the command that finds the x value for which the function value is equal to 0. That's what 0 means. And we can use our handheld there to find our x-intercept. And again, I've got this ridiculous float. Now, if you're, well, ridiculous in a good way, if you're thinking, hang on a second, I changed my float before and I'm only seeing a couple of decimal places there, the graph settings are actually separate to the other settings. So if you're only seeing a couple of decimal places there, just hit menu, and you can see number 9 here is a sort of a separate settings, and make sure that your float is up nice and high. Again, mine is a bit ridiculous, but that's okay. I'll leave it up there because I like having a lot of decimal places. So the calculator page is not going to give us an exact value here. So what we do is we jump back into our other page, and we'd use our zeros command, which I'll get from my catalogue. And I'll say, okay, well, what's the exact value where h of x is equal to 0? And you can see that switching between the two pages allows me to see a graphical representation of this function here, and I can see my value there is to the left of the y-axis, so that I know that that's a negative value, and I have some idea of it's quite small, obviously, but then when I jump over here, I can get the exact value, and if I press Control-Enter, I can convert that to an approximation, and I can see that that number is in fact the same as this number here. So that's a really handy little hint there. Because in most cases, the methods exam will want the exact value, not the decimal. So using a combination of the calculator and the graphs page is really important. Okay, for the y-intercept, a couple of different ways I can do that. I can use menu and trace. And if I use the trace graph, I'm just going to click on trace graph and then type in a 0. And I literally just typed in 0 then, and I'm going to press enter. And that will take me straight to my y-intercept there. So trace allows you to type in an x value, and it will give you the function value. So if I now typed in -4 and pressed enter, it will take me to the coordinate -4, and the decimal approximation is -3.998, etc. Now, again, you can jump back into your calculator page and find h of 0, and you'll get that function value when x is 0. So using those in combination is really handy, and also you should sort of realise if you've made a little mistake there. So that's definitely a suggestion. Now, a few quick things with the graphs. If we had entered a rule, let's just insert a new graph here. Let's say we'd entered, let's do x squared plus 40. Okay, now we know that this is a parabola that's been translated up 40 units, and I'm going to press enter here, and I can't see anything. Now, we're all very clever method students, so we have some idea that the graph is up here, but sometimes you might type in a function and you just, particularly under the stress of an exam, you really can't find it. So in this case here, I could probably double-click here and change my function value up to, say 60, and I can see part of my graph. But if I didn't know how to do that, and maybe I was under a bit of pressure and I was really confused about my scale, a little hint here is to go menu and window and fit. So that was menu, number 4 for window, and A for fit, and that will find part of your graph for you, which is a really handy little hint. Now, I've rushed through a few things there. I might just slow down. I'll press Control Z now to undo that window, and you might have seen I just double-clicked here to change my scale. That's a really handy little hint because sometimes people go through menu, window, and then window settings and try and do all of this manually. You can actually just, using your keypad here, kind of hover up here and click into it, and we can change our value to a 60. And if I press Tab, and I can tab over here and change that value, let's make that 20. I'll leave that one there, make that minus 20. And I might tab up here and make this one 150. And I just use tab, tab, tab around the axis there to change my graph. So that's another handy little hint. But if you're really lost and you can't find it, then use window and fit. If you try that and you can't find it, my advice would be to double check that you have used an X here, that you're graphing in terms of X, not in terms of T or some other variable that was given in the question, because the graph page will definitely want you to be using X as your variable. Okay, I'm going to whiz. There's so much more I want to tell you here, but I want to try and show you a few other documents. So I'm going to. Yeah. I keep thinking of things, but I'll stick to what I had planned. So what we might do is insert a new problem. So everyone can practice this now. We're going to insert a new problem, and it should come up as 2.1. And I'm going to insert this data and statistics page.
Just
now,
quickly, Hayley.
Yep.
I was just going to ask, what's the difference between inserting a new problem and just inserting a new page?
So if you insert a new page, that it would have been linked to 1.4. So if I did Control I and I inserted a new page there, then that would have been 1.5. But I wanted a whole new problem, and you're about to see why, because I want to use an X here, and I want to make sure that my X isn't already being used.
So the variables
that's
in this problem won't be linked to the previous pages.
That's right, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to, it's not what you think. You might think I'm about to put some coordinates here. Actually, I might plot some coordinates here because we'll show you that very quickly. So I have these coordinates. I have the coordinate 1, -5, -2, -20, 0 and -4, and 4 and 28. And I've been told that this is part of a cubic function. I better label my columns here, X and Y. And what I can do is I can actually insert a new page, Control I there, and use this data and statistics page here. And I'll hover down here and say that that axis is my independent and this is my dependent axis. And I can see sort of the vague shape of the cubic here. And then I could use some regression. Now, that's in Analyze and Regression. And I've been told previously that this is a cubic, so I can put my cubic in there. And you can see that's one way, probably not the way I'd suggest that my students solve for the equation of a cubic. This value is coming out as a very, very tiny number. That's just a calculator a rounding issue there. That's a 0. So our cubic is ax cubed is 1x cubed minus 2x squared minus 4, and that might be a nice way that you want to check the equation of a cubic if you were given these points. Another way to do that question would be to use your define. There we go. There's my x coming up as a bold X. So I'm not going to use that. I'm going to jump back over here into a document that doesn't have x and assign my cubic as a times x cubed plus b times x squared plus c times x plus d. Now, we could actually see that d was minus 4 because one of those points was 0 minus 4. And then you can actually solve that by saying that you know there's some other points here that one of the coordinates was 1, negative 5. And I've used the word and here. You can get the word and from your catalogue. And another one was f minus 2 equals 20 and f of 4 equals 28. Now, I am zooming through this because I did want to show, oh, something's gone wrong there. It's one of my points. Let me just figure out what I've done there. 1, negative 5, negative 2, negative 20. There we go. There's our values there. Now, so my cubic is x cubed minus 2x squared, 0x minus 4, so plus 0x minus 4. Now that I've zoomed through very quickly because most people will have seen that plotting points and doing a little bit of regression before. I'm going to show you another use for this page, and it's to do with probabilities. So we might just insert another problem. And in this case, I'm going to have a look at flipping a coin. I'm going to flip the coin 3 times and take note of the number of tails that are obtained. So the probability we know will be a binomial distribution where x can take the values of 0, 1, 2, or 3. In other words, we can get 0 tails, 1 tail, 2 tails, or 3 tails. And I could work out all the different probabilities and then enter them in here, but there's a much easier way of doing that. I'm going to hover over this cell and press equals, and then binom PDF is the command that I want. Now, I'm going to type that in. You can find it through your menu if you want to. Binom PDF, and that's binomial probability distribution. And what we're going to do is type in the number of trials. So there were obviously 3 trials. The probability of obtaining a tail in any trial is 1/2, or you can type in 0.5 if you like. And then the x value, well, that's changing. So we want to know the probability of obtaining 0 tails, 1 tail, 2 tail, and 3 tails. So I've called this column x. I'm going to type an x in there and press enter. Now, the calculator is going to ask me a question here because I've got all these columns A, B, C, D, all the way down to X. So when I press enter, it's asking me, are you talking about the column X or the variable X? And I'm going to say I'm talking about the variable X. So change that to variable, press OK. And what we have here are the probabilities that X is 0, X is 1, X is 2, and X is 3. And we're obviously expecting a symmetric distribution for flipping a coin because the chance of getting 0 tails is the same as getting 3 tails. And you can see those numbers there. You can sort of see some symmetry, but you know what's nicer? If you can actually see the symmetry. So let's press Control-I and insert a data and statistics page. And let's actually have a look at this picture. So the horizontal axis will be our X values, and we want our probabilities plotted here. And you can see a nice symmetric distribution of our probability. Now, this was a really, really nice way to sort of get our head around the skew of different functions. So if we, I might just add a couple of trials here to my little experiment. And I might just change this to, let me just see how many trials I actually added. I had 7. So, 6 trials. So I'm going to say, okay, that's 6. And now I'm going to change it to a higher probability, which means I'm expecting my distribution to be skewed. And let's have a look at how our graph changed. It's not liking the scale there, so we'll just add it here. We're adding our distribution, and of course, because we added more trials and we increased the probability, we can see a skewed graph here. So this is a really nice function of the handheld for binomial probability distribution, and something a little bit different, a different little use for our graphs and data and spreadsheets pages. So if you hover over one of those, what we're seeing here is that for this particular distribution where the probability of success was 0.8, the probability that X is equal to 4 when we have 6 trials is 0.24576, and that's the probability when X is 4. You can see that the most likely outcome is that the X is equal to 5. That's the most likely outcome because it has the highest probability. And that's a really nice little way to have a look at the skew, and we can see there that our distribution is negatively skewed. Okay, now I have about 10 minutes to go, so I would really like to show you the coolest of all of the handheld pages, and that is...
We'll have to introduce our other people too, Hayley. So, it's looking good. I'm really happy with what we've got here.
Excellent.
We've got Jodie on the line as well, who will be running the applications course on Thursday.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll just finish off with this page. So I've just inserted a new problem. If you missed that, I'm at 4.1 here. And I'm going to, we've gone through calculator, we've gone through graphs, we sort of skipped geometry because we don't use it a lot in methods. We've had a look at lists and spreadsheets and data and stats. And now the coolest of the pages is this notes page here.
I agree. That's great.
I can type into here. My students get annoyed at me when I start typing full sentences, and it's going to take them, a couple of days to type that out because it's a little bit slower on the handheld, but worth the effort. So I can just type stuff in here. You'll notice that if I try and add 6 and 5 and press enter, nothing happens because this is not a calculator page. This is a notes page, but this can do some really awesome stuff. So we can type little notes to ourselves. Let's type something about average value. Now, if you've learnt the how to calculate the average value of a function, so the integral, it's 1 over b minus a. In fact, let's actually type that rule in. So I'm going to insert a math box, Control M, and I know that anything I type in a math box is actually math. And I'm going to type in here avval, and I'm going to assign my average value to b, and I might do 1 over b minus a multiplied by the integral from a to b of f of x dx, which of course is our rule. And I'm just going to leave that for a second because I won't press enter yet. What we need to know is what our function is and what our a and our b values are. So I'm going to insert a function up here, and I've just pressed Control M again, and I'm going to assign f of x to be, let's do x squared minus x, and I'll press enter. Once you've pressed done, once you press enter, it should say done there. And I'm going to insert another math box and define my a value. So let's find the average value between 2 and let's do the average value between 2 and 5. So I'll assign b to be 5, and I've pressed enter there. Now if I jump back in here and I press enter, what's happened here is that it has calculated the average value of this function f of x between x equals 2 and x equals 5. Now, I know that was quite quick, so I might I just really want to show you some other notes pages that I've made. So what we did, when we're typing normal text, we just type normally. When we want to insert anything that's maths, we press Control M is the shortcut. So Control that button there, and then the little M here will insert a math box there. And anything we type in here is going to be mathematics. We've assigned a function, we've chosen our a and our b value, and what's happening here, and I just called it avval, you can call it whatever you want, is calculating the average value of the function using the mean value theorem. So if I want to do another average value question, maybe I get into my exam and it says, hey, can you tell me what the average value of the function log to the base e of x plus 3 is between 0 and 2, and that is all dynamic. So as I change those values, and you just need to make sure you press enter after each one, what happened is that this found the average value of that function log to the base of x plus 3 between 1 and 2. So we don't need to do anything other than come in here and change the function. Now, you edit the blue text. That's the really important part of this, is that you edit the blue text. So let's do change our function to this hyperbola, and we're going to change our values from 2. Whoops, that's a bit silly, wasn't it? Because that's between 2 and 2. Now we'll change it to 2 and 5. And we can see that it's just it's giving us our value there. If you want that as a decimal, you just jump in there and press Control Enter, and it will convert it to a decimal. So let's have a look at some other cool pages that I've made with my students. And if you are a student and you are completing Year 12 methods, can I suggest you fill some spare time on your weekends by creating some of these pages? Get your nerd on, get inspired to make some of these, because not only does it help you in the exam, I think my students say that they don't know how much they'll use these in the exam, but they like knowing that they're there. So if they do forget something, they can jump into one of these files. And what we've made here with my students is a nice little file for binomial distribution. Let's say that we have 7 trials. The probability of success can be 1 on 4, and I want to know the probability that x is equal to 5. And all I've done there is change those values, and this is set up to calculate the probability here. It's also telling me the mean and the variance and the standard deviation. So if I were to change any of these values, maybe n is 10, and the probability of success might be 2 over 5, then all of those values down the page just filled out. And what we can see is those values changing there. So I just realised I've gone a bit over time, guys. I might leave you there. I've gone a bit quickly. I really did want to show you this normal distribution page, but I'll stop talking.
We've got to include the notes, though, because those notes pages, the dynamic notes, and what you do with the dynamic notes, Hayley, is just fantastic.
I'll show you this one.
I've shared that with my students. Yeah.
This one here is a continuous probability density function page where they can where you can type in the rule here and the values here. So if we change that, if you type something in a different type of probability density function here and the values for which it's defined, you can tell that it's 0 elsewhere, but it's log to the base e of x between 1 and e. This is a little check that we've set up to make sure the area under the curve is 1, and then it's telling us the mean and the variance and the standard deviation. So the students, all they need to do is type that equation in there, check that the area is 1, and everything filters through down there. So I know I spent a lot of time on the other stuff and going quite quickly over navigating pages, but I think it's so important for students, if you're going to set up these pages, you need to know how to save them and how to get back to them. So if we saved that and you were in an exam and you're thinking, oh, goodness me, how do I get to it? You go back into your My Documents and you should be able to recall any of these pages or problems that you saved. So that's all from me. I hope you've enjoyed the session, and if you can fill out the feedback form when you finish, guys, that'd be good, so we know what you want more of for the coming weeks, and we know what you think of Inspired Squad. So thanks very much. I'll hand over to you, Bryan.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hayley, and great stuff there. As I was just saying, I've used your material in my own classes. I've taken some of your things from the webinars you've done that are really targeted for teachers, but I've thought there's so much material there that's really good for students. So students, just on that point, be mindful that what happens with our previous webinars, they are actually available for download for the full webinar through the Texas Instruments website. But what also happens is we take parts of it and make them into shorter, bite-sized clips and put them on the YouTube channel. I think at the end of this webinar, your webpage may be taken to that YouTube channel. So lots of Hayley's work is available for download on that YouTube channel. You will also get a follow-up email from this webinar and links to Google Documents where we're going to be dropping in some of the files, and including, Hayley, I don't know if that TNS file is one that you're looking to share there. But,
sure, I can upload some of those. They're all sort of working documents that people might, that you're welcome to fiddle with them, but I'm happy to share anything, I'll put some in there.
Yeah, there's some great stuff, particularly if students, if you can have a ready-made notes page for something as simple as the quadratics, for example, and you do not have to clear that from your calculator when you go into the exam or the second part of the exam. And so you just say, you look at the exam question, of course it will have different numbers, but you just open that particular notes page, change the numbers, and bang, your results just fall out.
Yeah, and sometimes it's even a confidence thing. Just having them there is so reassuring. Exactly.
So thank you, Hayley, very much for that. Students, if you're only enrolled in the methods course, if you want to actually see Hayley's other lecture, which is going to be on Thursday night or Thursday afternoon, if you may wish to enrol for the applications course, just to see Hayley again on Thursday. Of course, the examples won't be maths methods related, but you will still get the calculator navigation and examples from the mathematics applications course. But other than that, your next lesson is this time next Monday, or 5 p.m. next Monday, Western Standard Time. And your presenter then, Stephen Julian. So, Stephen, are you still there to say hello?
Yes, I am, Brian, and thank you for that, Hayley. That was I actually learned a lot from that myself, so thank you very much for that.
Oh, thanks, guys.
I just wanted to... Oh, sorry, Brian.
I was going to say, also online, we have Jody. Are you there, Jody? Jody Crothers, who will be teaching the applications course on Thursdays. But he's being fairly quiet.
It's a first.
I know he's there.
Sorry, I'm being naughty here.
Students, what has happened is you've got teachers in the background answering the chat and the questions that you've been typing. We do apologise if we've been a little slow in getting around to your chat and Q&A, but rest assured that we've been busy typing away and reading what's going on there. And well done, and thank you for your questions. Stephen, did you want to share your screen at all?
I won't, Brian. I can stay on that wonderful picture of me. I know a few familiar names on the list, so we might just keep that wonderful photo of me sitting there. But I was just going to say, for any of the students and teachers who are listening in, it is good to see there's a few teachers who are logged in for tonight as well. That next week the focus will be on differentiation. One of the things I will be looking at is trying to create a differentiation-based notes page from scratch. And I'm going to try to make it fairly intensive, even though it will only be for about 20 minutes. As Brian's bringing up the information there. So you'll notice the next week's plan is differentiation and logarithms. We will we will be planning to get into exam questions as well, so it'll be a bit of a mix of notes pages along with exam questions, shortcuts, menu navigation, and then that'll pretty much follow through into the other 3 weeks, which will be on anti-differentiation, probability and sampling, so hopefully you get plenty out of it.
Terrific. Yep, so we're covering pretty much in 5 sessions or 4 sessions remaining, the bulk of the Year 12 methods course, or the 3-4 unit methods course. Obviously, we can't do everything in four lessons, but the aim is to touch on the main ideas by way of review and set you up for your exams.
And just to add to that, Brian, and just to go on about your question part as well, it was great to see a number of questions coming through tonight and through the chat. Some of them were private, some of them were out there publicly. Just to encourage people in the next few weeks to really utilise that feature. There was some very, very good questions that came through. But if you do have any issues, please send them through, and that way either Brian or myself or whoever's involved can actually answer them for you.
Terrific. Yes, if we're fast enough to see it and get onto it, which is good, and that was because we got so many questions coming in. So well done again, students, and thank you for that. And also well done, just in general, I think, for subscribing to the program. As I said at the introduction, I really do believe that in preparation, of course, your time is valuable, especially at this time of year as you lead into your WACE exams. but I really think it helps a lot if you see beyond just your own school and see different ideas, whether it be from lectures or online seminars such as this. So we hope to see you again next Monday afternoon, 5 p.m. Western Standard Time. And if you log in a little earlier, then you will hopefully see a set of PowerPoint slides just telling you a little bit about how the webinar system operates and how you can ask questions and navigate in that. Some people did say that they had a bit of a problem if they had logged in via a Mac, so thank you for alerting us to that. I logged in as a participant on a PC, and it was all looking good there. So thank you again to our presenters. That's mostly Hayley and Stephen this evening, but also Jody in the background for helping out. And
Pleasure.
Hope to see you all. Terrific, yeah, no, great job. And so students, be watching your email. We'll be sending you some follow-up information on how to access some of the materials through a Google document link. And if you want to hear from Hayley again, as I said, even if you're not in the applications class, you might want to enrol in that course just to see Hayley's introductory session on Thursday. So thanks, guys. I'm going to close the connection and see you again next week.
Thank you.
Good night.